My name is Marshall. This is the ExperienceMore tour, and we are here today to discuss Danner and Danner products, Danner footwear, and maybe even a little Danner outerwear as we talk over the next little bit with an extra special VIP from Danner, Yoji Kaneda. Yoji is a person that I've really admired his work for a very long time with some of the products that we've seen coming out of Danner and also with some of the previews of this outerwear. It's amazing, Yoji, what you have in your mind, how you bring that into the universe of Danner, and how all this expresses out. It's really cool to see it. So good morning and welcome, Yoji.
Hi, good morning. My name is Yoji Kaneda. I manage the lifestyle category for apparel and footwear, so I get to play a lot around with the fabrics and the materials and the designers and developers. So it's a very dynamic place. Having fun here.
Yeah, and what has been your background to bring you up to be sort of the manager of the lifestyle category at Danner?
Yeah, I did actually spend a lot of time at retail, so I think that really helped in understanding what the consumers want. And I was always curious about materials and leather, and as a store staff, and I think that all helped at the end. And now it's really exciting because it's about using a lot of the materials that I know already, but also finding all these new cool things in the market or at fabric shows. So that's what I do right now. Yeah.
Yeah, like you go to a fabric show and you find materials, you find inspiration. How are you thinking? How are you approaching that? You're like, I'm gonna put that in my back pocket for a while, maybe pull that out, or are you shopping for something specific as you have ideas of what you want to bring to market?
Yeah, it's sometimes hard because you see this really cool fabric. We recently saw a wool material with a lot of like dotted like perforations in it. It's like, what are we gonna make with this? Like make a summer pants, like wool summer pants. That's really cool. So like those are the things that I do and like, think about future from sometimes the materials as well.
That's fascinating, and we're going to see some of these materials applied here, I think, into some of the products as we explore. You're putting a lot of technology into some of the products that we're going to be looking at. So, right, these materials not only have this aesthetic, but there's also a lot of tech going into what we're seeing from you. And I want to just kind of dive right into the Mountain 600 family. This is a family where we had the Mountain 600 Gore-Tex Leaf come out last year. And this was a special shoe. What made this shoe special when it launched?
This is a really special shoe for us because it's inspired by our icon, which is the Mountain Light. So it's a really classic, nice, really cool boot. It is really hard to break in. It is a little bit heavier. Some people still like it, but we thought there needs to be some evolution to it. So this is the Mountain 600. We put a lot of new midsole foams and new outsole materials and some constructions to improve the fit. So this is a really special shoe for us.
And what are some of the really specific characteristics about this shoe like, that you think we should call out to customers when they're looking at it?
I think really nice leather. And because of the leather patinas, it takes in a lot of this like beautiful aging process. But what we also did notice that if we have this really nice patina at the end, if the sole wears out, that kind of sucks. So what we did is make this also resolable, which we call regrafting. So we can actually resole this boot as well.
So adding resolability into a shoe with this sort of easy break-in, that's a unique characteristic and something that I think is fascinating to see how Danner is adding that longevity to these shoes, right? I mean, that's the best thing you can do for lowering the initial footprint of a shoe is to really use it more times, right? Use it
Yep.
longer, more years. And the fact that you have figured out a way to put this in and actually get these shoes recrafted or resold is fascinating. Now you've had a pair of these for about a year. You've been out using them. What are some of the learnings that you've had from these, and how are you moving these learnings forward?
Yeah, so the front on the left is my pair that I kind of really worn in the trails. The outsole itself, the rubber itself hasn't really worn off, but we saw some damaging on the upper, especially in the medial, on the lower medials where and the toes where I do go through some really sharp scree and some rocks and it does damage it. So what we also noticed that is that when we do the resoling process, we need to take that whole bottom unit off, and it does have some damage to the upper sometimes. So we wanted to protect the bottom layer of the boot so that it is a little bit more durable in places that have sharp rocks, or if we wanted to resole them, it does protect the upper from resoling process. So we added this PU rand. The photo on the right is a new Mountain 600 ID, but we added this PU leather rand. So it is still leather, but it's PU coated. So it should protect the upper from abrading. So it's basically an extra layer that we put on there.
So that wraps around, right, a rand and is going to sort of help with the longevity of the leather, right, by impregnating that leather with PU or through that section. Why did you choose a PU impregnated, or not even impregnated, maybe that's the wrong word, maybe you can use the right word, a PU leather versus like a TPU in that zone?
Yeah, we could probably simply call it PU coated leather. So it's a leather piece with PU coated on top of it, and we actually did try with TPU because other brands use it. We thought it's really cool. But what TPU is great is it's great against abrasion, but it is not really good in flexing. So when you have flex points like shoes, they flex all the time. It could crack over time or peel off over time. So what we did is use a conventional leather but PU coated so that you can actually stitch it onto it and it doesn't really crack because leather is really flexible and it really moves with your feet. So that's really some awesome factors of leather. And but it's also PU coated, so it does protect the material from abrasion as good as TPU round would do.
So we get a little additional longevity because it can flex, because it can give. Also, it's matched with a leather upper. Now, this leather upper, I'm not going to say the right word. I'm going to call it fuzzy on this leather upper. What do you, when you look at this leather upper, how do you describe this, and why this selection of material?
I would say this is more of just the cool factor of it. Having long, hairy suede, it just looks really cool. But suede is also a good combination with Gore-Tex. So Gore-Tex is a waterproof and breathable material. Suede is actually a really nice waterproof material and also a very breathable material. Full grain is a little bit more of a tighter fiber made out of tighter fiber, but suede is a little bit of a rougher fiber, so it does have more space in between, and the hairs actually help the DWR, which is water repelling on the surface. So it's a really great combo for Gore-Tex.
And is treating this, is caring for this leather any different than any other suedes?
So it will be same as the suedes, but I would just not put like oil on it or cream on it. We do have suede sprays, which contains conditioners in it. So basically some sort of oil, but a little bit lighter. So it's really easy. You just have to brush off the dirt and spray that conditioner on. So that should help with the DWR as well.
Right? And so that reapplies the DWR that keeps those pores that you talked about in the leather open, so they're not getting filled with oils, so allow for breathability. And then the Gore-Tex is on the inside, which is going to interact with that, so allow for, again, sweat to evaporate out of the from the foot. Now you sent us a couple pairs. This team actually have mine here this morning. I love wearing them around, and I get a lot of comments. They have such a unique look. But our event producer Ben, as being the nerd he is, cut these in half, of course, to take a look at the inside after enjoying them for a while. And I noticed when looking at the inside, right, I can see the Gore-Tex, three-layer Gore-Tex booty liner really well applied in the internal of the shoe. One thing I noticed is I don't see a lot of puckering, a lot of pullback, because that can happen if they're not done well. So this is really well applied through the toe, through the heel area. But through the tongue, we see a separation, and that is partly because when we cut it, it releases tension, and so this separation is exaggerated due to the cut. But what I notice when I look at that is there's no glue in that zone. In fact, there's a lot of open cell foam. There's sort of this area for optimal breathability. The vamp of your foot is a place that I think shoes really rely on for breathability. We have 100,000 sweat glands throughout our feet, and our sock is going to take the sweat from our feet. It's going to absorb it and then wick it around to the top, and then allow for that phase change and the evaporation both through the smokestack, which is where your leg goes, but also through that vamp, that open area. And so no glues in that section to me indicates that this is really well done to think about breathability of this shoe. So waterproof, breathable, and windproof, right, our core benefits is what you get by adding this Gore-Tex booty into here. So that's what I see when I look at this. But then we showed it to you, and you saw, well, of course, that. But you, as we zoom into the toe area, you pointed out something really interesting to me, and this is around this PU leather. Can you explain sort of what you see when you look at this?
So if you remember, we added that PU leather rand to protect the upper from the outside elements, but also from the resoling process. So when we resole the shoe, we basically take off the whole bottom unit. And if you think about it, how do you peel off a bottom unit? Because it's stuck on there even after like a very long use. So what we do is really cut them, grind them down. So it could sometimes damage the upper, especially around the stitches and the leather that's wrapped beneath the bottom where the bottom is attached. So what we did is add that extra layer of the leather. You see in the arrow on the top right, that's the PU leather end. And if you go down, it actually extends to the bottom arrow unit. So it wraps around the bottom, and right above the bottom arrow, you'll see that stitch line. And that stitch actually connects the bottom and the upper membrane and the whole upper material. So we really don't want to damage that stitching. What the PU leather rand does is cover that whole stitching element as well. So it protects the whole bottom stitching that is invisible, but also covers that really integral part of the upper.
Right. And so to be able to resole these shoes takes a lot of forethought in the design of the shoe. You don't just randomly get to resole shoes. It has to be designed as such. And I think it's fascinating that this shoe, you even took a learning from the Mountain 600 Leaf Gore-Tex, which is awesome and resolable, but made this one even a little bit easier to resole, a little more reliably resolable by adding that component and wrapping it underneath to protect those stitches, right? To protect the waterproofness of it, to protect the integrity of the shoe. And so on the next slide, you can kind of see this is the part that comes off. You get the midsole removed, you get the outsole removed, but you really want to protect that upper and the strobel board and all that underfoot. Um, it's
Yeah.
it's it's very very cool, right? And so how does recrafting work at Danner? So if we bought this shoe, we use it for a couple of years, and now it's time to get it resold. How does one do that?
Yeah, so it's quite simple. We have really strong, really skilled craftsmen at the Recrafting Center. We have a web form on theater.com where you can go to the recrafting page and you can enter your style number, which is inside the tongue label. So you can enter that, and that'll give you kind of a process of how to proceed. So, once you submit that form, you can send the boot to us and we can actually resole it. And our craftsmen are really good. So we've been recrafting the original Mount 600 Leaf last year. We started this process last year, but we did 100 pairs last year and none of them were damaged. So it's, one shot, right? Like the craftsmen, they would get the shoe and in one shot they have to fix it without any damages. So they're really good at it. We do 3,000 pairs annually on all the boots that we do, so they're really good. But the extra PU leather rand does help them, give them kind of an ease of mind, basically, to process these soles.
Um, and so we have a question here, like what options do customers have if the shoe label is worn off or missing?
Um, you can also contact our CRC. They're really good at identifying the
Yeah.
shoe. And I think, all the Mount 600 styles are now resolable. So anything in this shape would be resolable. So that should be pretty clear.
Yeah, right. So if you can't quite find it, just call, and I'm sure your folks can walk them through, right? Or you can send a photo or something like that, and you all know instantly what the shoe is and what can be done with it. But it's really cool that you do have this widget on the website where if you do have the style number, you can enter it in. It'll let you know what to do, what that return process is, and what does it cost for a resale at this time?
It'll be $100 for a resole. And we also take off the midsole and the outsole. So you'll get a fresh midsole
Yeah.
and an outsole. So outsole sometimes doesn't really wear off on a trail. The midsole does pack out over time, so that's the benefit you get.
So this is recraftable. The whole Mountain 600 series is, right? We showed a picture earlier, the Mountain 600 Leaf Gore-Tex. That stays in the line. That is a bestseller. It's an awesome shoe. For folks who want a slightly different look, maybe a slightly increased durability because of that polyurethane coated leather, there's now the Mountain 600 ID Gore-Tex added into the line. So a couple options for customers. And are the fits designed to be around about the same in both of these shoes?
Yes, they are exactly the same.
It's the same last in the same way
Yes.
it's lasted. Okay. So that's the Mountain 600 family, right? And I just think it's super cool, Yoji, that you're taking this, like, I'm not gonna call them sneakers because they're boots, but almost like the sneaker technology and making it resolable. And it's really fascinating to see how these steps have led into future development
Right.
of other types of shoes. And I want to explore another type of shoe now, which is brand new to the market, the N45. Now that's a kind of almost a code name. So help us understand what the N45, like what is it for?
Yeah, so N45, the name actually came from the North 45th Parallel, which goes a little south of Portland. So that's where we live and that's where we design our shoes. And if you go around the N45 line, you can go to Japan, to the East Coast, to the Appalachian Trails, to the Swiss Alps. So we thought it's a cool name to kind of travel all around the world, whatever mountain you want to go to.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that's the origin of the name. But we packed in a lot of technology on this shoe. We have the Trail 2650, which is a really good low shoe that we do for that was made for the PCT hikers. This is also inspired by the PCT hikers, but brought in a little bit more of a newer, fresher materials that are in the market right now.
So bringing in a shoe for the through hiker, not everybody's a through hiker, so for more maybe that distance hiker who wants a slightly softer shoe, that's where the intentionality is here. And so what opportunities did you see to really add into this shoe? Where were you looking for inspiration from for this?
Yeah, so we know a lot of people when you go to the stores, people are wanting trail runners for hiking. So that's one thing that we see on the trail and also at the stores. And we also notice that with the trail runners, there's a lot of benefits on the softness of the midsole, but they're all mostly made for running. And what we wanted to concentrate is long distance walking, including backpacking, lightweight backpacking. So we wanted to really bring in a lot of the features that are in the trail runners, but with more of a hiking intention behind it. We also saw a lot of great innovation on the super shoes, which are for marathons. One of the biggest features that we see now is the super critical foams. So when we make normal EVAs for any type of shoe, we basically inject gas like CO2 into a plastic piece to blow it up and make it into like a sponge. So it becomes a cushion. Supercritical foam is really cool. The one we used was a nitrogen infused supercritical foam. Supercritical is basically a state of not a gas, but it's between a gas and a liquid. So it really infuses the midsole material and really expands it. So it's a really cool material that has really good bounce and also lightweight.
No, I know in some of those supercritical shoes like Marathon, they're kind of one race shoes. They're designed to squish out over the course of the race to give you optimal performance, right? It's just a highly tuned race car. No, that's
Yeah.
not ideal for through hiking. So not all supercritical foams are the same, right? And I think you were explaining that a little bit.
Yeah, so supercritical foam is basically a process. What we used was the material used on the supercritical foam process, and it's the TPEE material. It's a new version of the TPE. It's more stable. What we get out of it is not a single day race shoe or single day hike shoe, but it's a material that lasts a lot longer than the supercritical foams used in the super shoes, but also gives you that really nice bounce. So I've been wearing it for a while now, but it gives you a boost every time you walk. So it's a really good sensation. It's super bouncy, but you don't really lose that bounce over time. So you could do hundreds of miles with it and still have that bounciness. And this is kind of the component you see. The midsole is the black material in the middle. That's the foam. And we on the N45, we also have these TPU rock plate that goes underneath, which is also a shank, but you can see kind of the butterfly on the front and the back, basically splitted. We took inspiration from like a goat hoof, which actually has this two um, perimeters that grips on a lot of different terrain. So what this does is move with the terrain underneath your foot. So it gives you a really nice grip on various terrains. So it's not a flat piece of sheet. The outsole actually has that design as well, so that the midsole and the TPU rock plate and the Vibram Mega Grip all act in single form to move around with the terrain that you're on. And we also used a Perspera material on the upper, which is a really strong PU coated thread. We call it the super fabric these days, but it's one of the super fabrics. It's a really strong material. It's also breathable, and it's very strong. And why we chose that material is that because we wanted this shoe to be resolable. So this shoe is a really fast hiking type of shoe, but it's also made to be resoled. So you can keep. We needed an upper that lasts longer than 2 or 3 resoles that this shoe could potentially go through. So that's one of the coolest thing that I think the N45 gives you is the resole capability with that super technology.
And there's that PU leather rand we already talked about on the Mountain ID, that technology coming over to here as well to aid in both the durability and the resolability of this shoe, right? This is first to market from what I've noticed, right? That a low cut shoe like this, right, with these soft components being resolable is super cool, right? I could envision a through hiker rather than going through 5 or 6 pairs of shoes, maybe having a pair running through them at some point, sending them off with another pair, right? And then those resole shoes meet them back at a checkpoint along the way. It would be a very, much more sort of lower footprint way of wearing shoes and using them in the industry.
Yeah.
Uh, and just from looking at this, you've packed so much tech into this rig. It is fascinating, right? So when we see this coming out, pay attention. This is something really special. This is a non-Gore version that's out right now. We see some cool colorways. Is there a Gore-Tex version as well associated with this?
Yes, we'll have a GORE-TEX version coming in fall 26. So it'll be several months from now, but we'll have a mid version and a low version with invisible fit GORE-TEX, which is also a really cool material.
Yeah, I'm super excited that you were able to incorporate invisible fit into this. I think it's a testament to your factories, to your commitment to making the highest performing shoes, the best fitting shoes, the longest lasting shoes, that you're incorporating invisible fit into the N45. I mean, this is really a breakthrough type of footwear. And then just from just a pure aesthetic, right? The mega grip with that gum rubber outsole, even there's a one with a two-tone. That is really unique. I have not seen that before. So you're doing lots of firsts in this from my perspective. It's very, very cool.
Yeah,
Um,
the gum rubber is just a look actually. So it
yeah.
is the mega grip material. So it is a non-marking material, and it's also the one of the best grips in the market.
And when we were talking before the call, you even called out another little technology on the outsole here. It's like a grip within a grip within a lug, right? This is something that you played around with. What is that?
Yes, so we have this thing called the traction lug. It's there's lugs, but there's little lugs on the lugs in the center, so on the sidewalls. So what it does is when you're walking through softer terrain, you want more grip, and the little lugs actually increase the surface contact up to 50% of the shoe, which is incredible. So it gives you better grip in hard terrain, but also on softer terrain as well.
Again, another technology packed into here. So this is the N45. Look for it. I think it's going to be a pretty innovative and kind of new direction for you all to have something in this offering, especially for folks that maybe are going on hikes and gravitating towards trail running shoes. Maybe this would be something to try on their feet, see if they like this. They're going to get so much more durability and longevity. It's a better investment overall if they like the shoe. So fascinating, Yoji, and really neat to see these two different shoes, the Mountain ID, this N45, what you're considering as far as how to bring these shoes really forward as well as with recraftability. Now, before we wrap up, I want to also highlight something that we alluded to earlier. you've started tinkering with outerwear and with garments in general. How? Yeah, why? What's the reason now to start doing this?
I think it goes along with a lot of the shoes that we've been creating, but there's a certain aesthetic in the market on the outdoor field. There's a lot of people coming into the market, and I feel like you don't have to look a certain way going outdoors. Why can't you wear, old school looking jacket with a leather collar going outdoors? If we put enough function in it, this is a Gore-Tex jacket with a leather collar. You can actually go out and enjoy the outdoors with a Gore-Tex cap. You don't need a hoodie all the time. Sometimes, those are some of the flexible thinkings that kind of helped create some of this new collection. Why don't we make a double knee pants that is a stretch material with Cordura fabric instead of like, the old school canvas, but not super athletic. So I think there's some things that we can do to improve the time going outdoors and enjoying them. And I think the garment world is another layer that we've been able to put in. So that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's Gore-Tex, right? What we're looking at here is a Gore-Tex jacket. I have one here as well. It may not look like it, but it is Gore-Tex and it's two-layer technology. So it gets tested the same as all other Gore-Tex out there, right? It's got to pass the rain room test. It's got to pass the durability tests, all of that. But you're building a whole new aesthetic. I mean, this is unlike anything I've seen in outerwear in a long, long time. And I think it's just fascinating, Yoji. Almost like you have such a cool job that you like, well, I wanted this, right? So then you get to go out and look at fabrics and shop around, and you have the resources at Danner to be able to create something really special and different. So what is this jacket, and when can we expect to kind of start seeing it out there?
Yeah, this is our Woodsman's two-layer Gore-Tex jacket. It's actually already out in the market. We sell it on Danner.com at the Danner retail, and we'll start seeing in them some selected wholesale partners coming in the future. So hopefully we have more people wearing this jacket.
Yeah, it is absolutely special, and I'll even point out that this person is wearing a Gore-Tex hat as well. You sent me a
Yeah.
prototype of this, so that is a hat that is made out of Gore-Tex, right? And if anybody has ever not worn a Gore-Tex hat in the rain, it is a really cool alternative to a hood. I mean, this jacket has a hood and you can put it on, but almost like a hat with a brim is just more comfortable out there in some situations with the rain. So it keeps your face dry. The whole thing is really quite nice, and it's neat to see how you play with this. So, it really just is a reimagining of Gore-Tex, and I think you're doing that from footwear all the way up into outerwear, and I can't wait to see what you're doing with mid layers, right? Maybe these aren't Gore-Tex, but there's a little hint coming out of your neck right
Yeah.
there of some of the cool stuff that you're playing with. I can't wait to see how this gets expressed. I think you're moving the industry forward and giving us something else to sell and for open it up to new customers who maybe wouldn't otherwise want something that looks quite as technical as this.
Yeah, hoping we have more people coming into the outdoors, wearing our garments. So we're
Yeah.
pretty excited.
It's very, very cool. Well, Yoji, thank you for taking time with us today to explore sort of what you're up to and showing us sort of a glimpse into the direction of, I think, outerwear and footwear for Danner. And excited to have you back in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you all for your time this morning. Appreciate your time.